Welcome back. I am Jared Case, curator of film exhibitions at the Dryden Theater and the George Eastman Museum, with another streaming recommendation. We've tried to lighten it up over the last couple of weeks with some musicals to bring to you, Fred Astaire musicals to be specific, and today is no different. We've got another one. It's 1957's Funny Face, starring Fred Astaire and Audrey Hepburn, and directed by Stanley Donen, who also directed last week's recommendation, Royal Wedding. This was Hepburn's first full musical, and she did do all of her singing in this film, unlike 7 years later when My Fair Lady went into production and they decided to overdub all of her songs. This film has a bit of a convoluted past in that Fred Astaire was in a Broadway musical titled Funny Face, written by the Gershwins, that premiered in 1927 with his sister Adele, who we learned about last week, went off to marry a royal in the early 30s and left the dance team. But this film does not follow the plot of that musical. However, it does use George and Ira Gershwin songs for the musical numbers. It's actually the plot is based on an unproduced musical called Wedding Bells, written by Leonard Gersh. And they don't use his songs in the film, but it is based on his plot. On top of that, the three main characters seem to have been inspired by real-life personalities, whether in the writing of the musical or in the adaptation to the film. So Fred Astaire's character is loosely based on Richard Avedon, the famous photographer, who also worked on this film to set up the photo shoots, which is one of the reasons they look so good. Kay Thompson's character is actually loosely based on Diana Vreeland, magazine editor, who supposedly at one point in time said to send out an email or memo to her staff, said, "Think pig white. Wouldn't it be great if everything was pig white and that it's not quite white, not quite pink?" And Audrey Hepburn's character is loosely based, and I need to look this up because I had it here. The model who was working on the film, Susie Parker, who was in the bookstore, is actually the basis for Audrey Hepburn, and her love of comics is actually reflected in there as well. So, all of these different things come together to make what is honestly a beautiful film. Kay Thompson is just a revelation in her performance here. She normally worked behind the scenes as a music director, but she did have her own variety show, and she'd been, performing for decades. But to have her on screen here, I wish she had done more so we could see more of her on screen. This was near the end of Fred Astaire's real dancing career. He wasn't as nimble and athletic as he had been in the past. It had been 26 years since his first film appearance. But his choreography was still top-notch, and I think that he found a real lithe and nimble muse in Audrey Hepburn, particularly in the cafe scene where she's expressing herself. Wonderful Gershwin songs, beautiful photography. The cinematography was actually Oscar nominated. On this rewatch, I was surprised at how much the camera actually moved, particularly for a musical of the time, and it really enhanced not only the performance of the actors, but of the musical performances as well. So this one is streaming on Amazon Prime Video, so please go ahead and watch it. Come back and get another recommendation, and we'll see you later.